Welcome to the Bougie, Baldie podcast with your host, Kelly Rhymes.
Hi, welcome back to the Bougie Baldie podcast. I am your host, Kelly Rhymes, and today I have Valerie Alexander, who is going to share some information about herself and her business. So let me tell you a little bit about Valerie. Valerie is a clinical trichologist, licensed hairstylist, and the founder and CEO of Power Beauty Unlimited, a company dedicated to providing non-surgical hair loss solutions and personalized hair restoration services. With over a decade of experience and a deep passion for helping others, Valerie specializes in holistic treatments, custom cranial prosthesis, and Japanese head spa therapy. Her mission is to empower individuals experiencing hair loss, especially women, to reclaim their confidence and embrace their beauty with strength and grace. Through her work, she continues to be a trusted advocate and expert in the field of hair and scalp health. Welcome to the Bougie Baldie podcast, Valerie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You are absolutely welcome. Now, for those of you who may be new to the podcast and don't know who I am, again, hello, my name is Kelly, and I am a hair loss support and authenticity coach. And I am here also to help my fellow women with hair loss come from that insecure place, that feeling of self-doubt, all of those negative feelings that you have and those emotions that you may have around your hair loss, to bring you to confidence and embracing what is going on with you so that you can move forward with a plan to maybe solve your hair loss, or if you know your hair isn't growing back, coming to grips with that and moving forward so that you can live a full and joyful life. All right. Now, let's go ahead and get into getting to know Valerie a little bit more. Now, when you look at Valerie, of course, she is beautiful, but Valerie also is a woman who has hair loss. So, Valerie, can you share your journey regarding your hair loss to the audience or with the audience?
Yes, definitely. So I started losing my hair at the age of 15. It was a troubling time for me because everyone else in my family has long, thick hair. And I was the one who had the short hair and also started experiencing patches in the back of my head. Um, I went to a dermatologist who told me that the hair loss was alopecia. And that's all I was told. And growing up with a single father, he knew nothing about hair. And back then, he used the metal combs to comb out my hair. And that probably what did it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I went through my teenage years kind of using weaves and, stuff like that. And it just gradually just kept coming out. And, after a while, I had to make a decision like, what am I going to do? I can't wear weaves anymore because I felt insecure about going to those hairstylists and being, out in front of everyone to see what was going on with me.
Okay.
But, I began to make wigs myself. And those wigs I felt like were the most beautiful thing in the world to me. And I, over time, I said, well, why can't I help someone else who is going through this? And that's really how, Power Beauty Unlimited started.
Okay. Now we're going to pause there because I have some follow-up questions because your story is, I saw some similarity or heard some similarities, I should say, regarding your story and mine. Because when I went to the dermatologist, I didn't receive a lot of information either. It was, I've seen this before. You have scarring alopecia. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay. And it was like, no solutions offered, no support offered, no next steps offered. And it leaves you with, okay, well, I guess I just got to deal with this. And that's a horrible feeling, a very horrible feeling, especially when you learn later on in life that something could have happened. Like you could have possibly saved your hair, you could have possibly done something. if the doctors would have gave you the options and provided the information, or even if the information was available, because I know when I was younger, we didn't have the internet. So
Yeah, yep.
it's not like you could have gone to Google or went on social media to see what you could possibly see now, because right now there are a lot of people out there who are supporting women with hair loss. So unfortunately, of course, we didn't have those things. It was just the time period it was, but it is unfortunate that those doctors did not provide more of a solution and more help for us. So I definitely feel you on that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, I find, because I'm a part of a Woman with Alopecia group,
Mm-hmm.
and I find that a lot of these women who are older women, they haven't even got diagnosed.
Yes.
And the ones that did, they went through similar things. They say they went in there, they felt unsupported, they didn't know where to go, what to do, where to turn to. And a lot of them now are just wearing their bald heads, and I commend them for that. But it's important, for us to understand that when dealing with hair loss, instead of camouflaging, we need to find out what's going on, because it could be internally and it could affect other parts of our body besides our hair and scalp.
Exactly. And that is the first thing I tell women that I work with. Like when I'm talking to them, the first thing I'm asking is, do you know? Have you received a diagnosis? Have you been to the doctor? Because even my journey, it took me years before I actually went to a dermatologist.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just steady trying to figure out, how can I resolve this hair loss on my own? Feeling embarrassed, like you said, going to stylists and getting wigs, but feeling embarrassed because now I got to show all these bald spots and patches in a salon where there's people, like
Yeah,
that didn't feel good. So I didn't
yeah.
continue to do that. I might have done it once or twice, but after that, I was like, I don't feel comfortable. So yeah, like now again, the time is different, because now we have
Mm-hmm.
stylists that have private, rooms or private sections where you don't have to be around people. They don't have to see what's happening. So that's a big benefit. But yeah, I mean, it was hard. It was definitely hard. And I'm not saying it's easy now. I know it still is hard for people who are
Yeah,
experiencing it now, but definitely back then it was hard. And when I say back then, I'm thinking like the early 2000s,
yeah,
and I know your hair loss was before that. So it was even
yeah.
harder for you.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So tell us, you told us your story about your hair loss, and you told us a little bit about how that led you into what you're doing now. But can you elaborate on that a little bit more? How did your hair loss inspire you to start your business and what you're doing now?
Yeah, definitely. So experiencing the hair loss, I used to wake up daily, like, what am I going to do with my hair?
Mm-hmm.
I would wear these wigs, and some days they didn't look right to me. So I'm like, what am I going to do? And I would break down and cry
Mm-hmm.
because of experiencing the emotional impact of losing my self identity. So I started the business, and I said, why won't I, help someone else who needs a wig? I
Mm-hmm.
started out with custom wigs. Even if you had hair, I was willing to make the wig.
Okay.
But I found that I had a greater purpose, and that was to help individuals. And actually, my first real hair loss client was a child. She was 6 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And it broke me down because she was the same age as my son. And I said, I can kind of empathize with her on how she feels going to school every day. And her
Mm-hmm.
aunt called, she said she's wearing a do-rag to school, a hat to school. And I was like, I can't let her go outside like that. But this little girl was so resilient. It didn't bother her. I thought it did, but it
Mm-hmm.
didn't bother her. So, I made that wig for her, and I just went full steam with it. I started getting certifications in wig design. I got a certification in cranial prosthesis specialist to take insurance and know how to help those individuals who were dealing with hair loss and wanted, couldn't afford it, but they had the insurance to
Mm-hmm.
help them pay for it. And it's become a passion for me to just go out here and help these women. And a lot of the women that I'm dealing with now are experiencing hair loss due to cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big thing because you are, instantaneously losing your self-identity. And you're
Yes.
also, your body is kind of breaking down in a way. So it can be emotional impact on them. And these women come to me and I feel like, you know, I'm that person for them
Yeah.
to, for temporarily, because some chemo patients and people going through cancer, they get their hair back. But at
Mm-hmm.
that moment, it doesn't matter in the future when it's coming. I need it now. I need to go outside. I need to go to work. I had a woman who her child wouldn't look at her. And he
Mm-hmm.
told her, "You're not my mom. My mom has hair."
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't only affect that individual, it affects everyone around them sometimes.
Yeah.
So I just keep pushing and trying to let these individuals know I'm here. There's a trend now with the wigs, people making wigs. There's a trend now, people wanting to do scalp treatments. But do you really know what the holistic approach is
Yeah.
as far as scalp is concerned? Do you really know what materials are you're using when you're making these supposedly medical grade wigs for these women?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I got the certifications, and I wanted to create solutions that are like 360, like anything from the beginning up until the permanent stage of hair loss, I can address for them.
So we got to hit on a few points here based off of what you said, because I'm like, got to ask about this, got to ask about that.
Yeah.
All right. The cancer patients who are losing their hair. I recently went to a conference for the Scarring Alopecia Foundation. And I was just listening to one of the dermatologists that was there who was just saying that women have come to them and said that their hair, like they're worried more about their hair versus the cancer, like that's a bigger deal to them. And you would think that, hey, you need to be focused on living and, so getting past cancer, getting to remission stage, that type of thing. But for a lot of women, that hair is way more important. That's the main focus. So I'm glad you brought that up because that population really, really needs support. I mean, of course, any woman, whether you have cancer or not, it's hard when you're losing your hair, but to have cancer and you're losing your hair, everything's hitting you at once. That is very, very hard. So thank you for, making sure you are serving that group of people because I know they truly, truly need it.
Yeah, definitely. It takes away themselves. They can't take their personal space, right?
Right.
They don't feel beautiful. They may, it may affect their marriage at some point
Mm-hmm.
because they feel like their husband doesn't look at them the same.
Yeah.
So it's very emotional to, even without cancer, just to, lose your hair.
Exactly, exactly. And then the other point that you made was about the hairstylists and what they're using in these medical grade wigs, because a lot of people who have alopecia have a lot of allergies and sensitivities and different things they cannot use on their scalps. So you really do have to know what material to use so that it will not irritate a person's scalp, make them break out, or have a reaction, allergic reaction. That is important. And I know I've seen personally on social media that, you have regular stylists out there, and I don't know if some of these stylists are trichologists or not, but I'm seeing them like take women who pretty much have a bald head and make them have a full head of hair. And it's not with a wig. They're gluing
Yes.
the weave tracks on their scalps. And I'm like, that is not healthy. There's no way that you're helping this person. Yeah, you may help them temporarily because they feel good, they look good because they have this new hairstyle. But long term, you gluing that on their scalp is not helping them at all. It's going to cause further damage. And as a
Yeah.
trichologist, I'm sure you can speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Putting that adhesive on the head repeatedly and long term, it's building up bacteria first on that scalp because you're not able to really wash that hair the way you want to. Even though they say you could wash it, that soap and water is not getting up under there to kind of, cleanse that area. And some women, are allergic to some of those things. So it's important, I believe, the consultation process is the most important part, because you're asking the most important questions before you put those things on. And like you said, it's temporary, right? There's other alternatives out there that could benefit that person rather than gluing something on their head. A lot of people don't like wigs. But if you don't have hair, there's only so much you can do that would be healthy and beneficial to your overall scalp health, because our scalp is connected to our face. And when things go on with our scalp, it could trickle down to our face, and we start getting acne, we start getting rashes, bumps we've never seen before. So we have to be careful when, we're looking for solutions and finding the right person to give you direction on what solution is best for you.
Yes, yes. Now, can you talk about your history before you started your business, your history in the hair care business? Because I don't want people to think that you just, had hair loss, started making wigs, and then you opened
Yeah.
So you have experience. So let's make sure everybody knows what your experience is and that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. So I am a licensed hairstylist. I've been a stylist for over 15 years. I did not practice much in being a hairstylist. I did a couple of years, but I didn't feel satisfied in that realm. So I, kind of researched opening up a mobile beauty supply store.
Okay.
Because I wanted to service my community and give them the alternative to the beauty supply stores that we had in our area, who were not owned by, first, Black individuals, and second, those individuals knew nothing about what they were selling in the store. So I wanted to be that person to kind of, you walk into my establishment, and you're going to know about the products that you're using, if this is good for you, if it's not, what type of wig looks right. And unfortunately, it didn't happen the way I thought it would happen. I had it all mapped out, and I was halted in that process of opening up that mobile beauty supply store. So I had to pivot. And when I thought about it, I said, oh, I'm going to get a certification in cranial prosthesis specialist. And that's what I did. And I began researching for insurance companies who took who accepted prescriptions for medical wigs and things like that. And then I just went further. I got a wig designing certification with a wonderful woman, Marquetta Breslin. And she, taught us to make wigs from scratch. And that's when I started really getting into it, making those units. And then I got the trichology certification. So it's been over at least 20 years that I've been in this industry and trying to elevate not only myself, but my community as well, to have the information that they need to protect their hair, to find solutions for, what they were going through, and ensuring they were getting proper treatment, not from me, but from their doctors and their dermatologists, to make sure they were making the right choices when looking for hair replacement or restoration.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty, I mean, I love it. I'm like, you're the person who did it right. You know what I mean? You didn't just jump out here and say, hey, I'm just going to start doing this. No, you have the background, the training, the certifications, everything behind you. And you started off with a mobile business, but it has now turned into a brick and mortar. So let's talk more about Power and Beauty Unlimited, and the fact that you custom make the wigs. Now, I've spoken to other people who sell cranial prosthesis, but what makes you stand out is that you're actually making these wigs and not ordering them from somewhere. So that kind of makes you stand apart. So let's go ahead and get into the business, the new brick and mortar that you just opened, Power Beauty Unlimited, and talk to the audience more about the company.
Yeah, so I am very blessed to have the opportunity to open up a brick and mortar in my community. It's been a long time coming. I've been working on this for the last 5 years, and with the help of Albany County, which is a county that I live in New York, they helped me open up this brick and mortar. They found the location for me. I loved it. I went in there, I designed everything. And it's a place, it's a sanctuary for women, not only women, men as well, to come into and, find out about their hair loss, find a solution, because I offer many solutions for those individuals. And the thing I love the most is making those wigs, because it relaxes me, one, but I know what I'm doing, it's for a purpose. And I always say I want a position with a purpose. And that, that's what I have. I am the, owner of a lovely brick and mortar that takes these individuals and transforms their lives.
Okay. Now you mentioned the men. So tell me, do you make like custom toupees or wigs or something for men as well? Or how do you service the men?
So I've only serviced one man, unfortunately, because a lot of men, some of them don't care, or some of them are too ashamed to walk through the door, and they want to talk to a man. But generally, the man that I service, he had some scalp issues going on. So it was psoriasis.
Okay.
So you come in, I have scalp treatments with the spa that I do. And that's how I help them. If they have hair loss, I have equipment that can help them, red light therapy. And that is, it's an emerging technology, and it's becoming more prominent in the field now, to use that, because it's 98% effective with helping individuals restore their hair. So, I take them as they come. People call all the time, but they don't schedule those consultations, and in fear of, I don't know, I don't know what their fear is, but I have a solution for them. And, that's why I'm here. And I'm just so happy to have a private space for them to come to, so they won't feel like they're out in the open, like I felt when I was going to the hair salon and people are just sitting there looking at them. And that's not the atmosphere I wanted. So I make sure that we have private consultations, you get private treatment, no one's walking in, appointments are scheduled accordingly, so everyone has their individual sessions with me.
Okay. So everybody in the audience, you heard that. This is totally private. You make your appointment, you go in, you have the shop to yourself, the consultation to yourself, so you don't have to worry about any type of embarrassment. And when you leave with your wig, you will have the utmost confidence, because you do installs as well, I'm pretty sure, right? You not only just make them, you install the wig as well.
Yeah, but technically they don't need to be installed, because most of our units are glueless. So, I make sure that we're being least invasive as possible. So putting those, hair glues on, and a lot of them, we don't know really what's in it, because a lot of them are not made in the US. So they can put something on the label and leave something out. And that one thing they left out, you could be allergic to, or it could cause more harm to you than you thought it would. I do have a product for people who want more security, and that's like a lace melting spray. And it gives you a hold, but it's less invasive than using that lace wig glue, and it stays on for a week or two. So I'd rather not do that. I want you to take that wig off every night and let your scalp breathe, and,
Right.
take care of your skin. Your scalp is still your skin. It still is the foundation for your skin.
Right. Right. Now, the spray adhesive, is that something you just put around the edges to keep it secure? Or how do you use that? Because I've never heard of it, so I've never used it. So tell the audience and
Yeah.
myself, how do you use that? And is that something that's common, that people can find readily anywhere, or do they need to come to your website? Do you sell something
Yeah.
special? Tell everybody about that.
So the lace melting spray, like I said, it is an adhesive, but you spray it on your scalp, your hairline. So you're going to spray it on that hairline. You're going to do about 2 to 3 coats of that. It'll dry. You'll feel a little tackiness. You put another coat on, let that dry a little bit. Then you put that third coat on while it's wet. You're just going to put the wig on, touch it down, and it's there. So, and then you're going to take some water at the end of the day and you're going to tap it and it's going to release for you.
Oh, so you can release it every single day. So
every single day.
The next day, I'm guessing the adhesive will come off in the shower when when you go for the shower, and you just do the same thing again the next day. And okay, I didn't know if it was something that would just stay on for if you wanted to stay on a couple of days, but I know
it can
get off.
Yeah, it definitely can stay on. I've used that and had a wig on for 3 days. But I prefer, usually when I go to sleep, I wash my face. So when I'm taking that wig off, I'm washing my face and I'm washing the hairline. You always want to keep your skin, and if you're putting something on it, you want to keep it clean.
Yeah.
And let it breathe at night, and then wake up the next day and do it again.
Okay. Now let's talk about your services, because there were a few services and you have some packages really that stood out to me. So I'm going to go ask you about 3 of your packages, even though I know you have more services and you can talk more about those services. But some that stood out to me, one was the Alopecia Revive package. Tell the audience about that.
So the Alopecia Revive package, we use a oxygen therapy. So it's going to be, it looks kind of like airbrushing, but we put a solution into that device and we spray it on the scalp, and it targets those specific areas, exfoliates the scalp. We use minoxidil and peptides and nutrients, and it goes directly into the scalp to nourish those, that area, those follicles, to get those follicles back up and strong.
Okay. Now, is something like that, I mean, just because I'm a person who has scarring alopecia, so that means my follicles are non-existent in a lot of areas of my scalp. So would that be for some people who have scarring alopecia if it's not too severe, or can, basically, I guess I'm asking, is there a group of people that this would not work for, or would not help?
Yeah. Those people with scarring alopecia.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. That hair is scarred. That your scalp is scarred. So, when it's scarred, nothing's coming up. Those follicles are closed, they're dead. So you're not going to see any growth in those areas. And it would be counterproductive to grow hair and you got 5 or 6 different spots that you can't get hair back into. So.
And I know people are hopeful, because I know when I was going through my journey, I was hopeful about everything. Let me try this, let me try that. It may work. But I think when people with scarring alopecia come to that ultimate realization, even though we've heard it, but really just letting it sink in that you have scarring alopecia, like you just said, your scalp is scarred, nothing is coming through, nothing is going to grow. That's when you come to the point of getting to acceptance. Okay, look, let me just figure out what's my long-term plan. Because I said for myself, all right, I'm just going to cut it off, get micropigmentation. That's my long-term plan, because I got to that point of my hair isn't coming back. So let me stop camouflaging this and just be me, right?
Yeah.
Now, the other package you have is the Resilient Radiance package. Can you talk to us about that one?
So the Resilient Radiance package is focused on those individuals who are dealing with cancer, who are going through cancer treatments. So I want to give them an experience, you know, and call it a ritual. So you come in and we have the consultation, and I give you a scalp massage.
Mhm.
And that is to stimulate, you know, your follicles, because as we talked about, that hair can grow back after the treatments are done. And
Right.
I've seen it, you know. So I mean, it's more of a relaxation thing to get your mind off of things and focus on yourself, take that personal space and relax. And then we can talk about what else we can help with while you're going through your treatments,
Mhm.
and to, you know, kind of have that wig consultation as well in that same, you know, appointment. If you want a wig or a topper or even a patch, right? So
Mhm.
we have individuals who, you know, they're just starting out on their cancer journey and they have this one patch that is missing. I can make a patch. You know,
Okay.
it's only for a short term because a lot of, you know, your hair is going to fall out with those treatments,
Mhm.
but I have solutions for those individuals and I give them all the alternatives that I have.
Okay.
So it's pretty much relaxation, uh, getting that customized wig if that's something that you want. Or we could start with some scalp treatments, but it's limited because they are going through, you know, the chemo and radiation and stuff like that. And we don't want to put stuff on their scalp that's going to be, you know, counteract to what they're using in their treatments.
Okay.
So we make sure that we use all natural, holistic shampoos, conditioners, serums. So these are just natural things that we could use to ensure that when your hair starts to return, it's returning healthy.
Okay. So for the audience, you guys, whether you know, you may not be a cancer patient, but you may know someone who is. And this could be a great gift for them just to kind of boost them up. So if you
Yeah.
are in the Albany, New York area and you know someone who has cancer who may be struggling, you know, they just need to get a pep, you know, get some
Mm-hmm.
upliftment in their lives. This could be a great gift, and you guys could go together and get scalp treatments together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hair loss or not. So just think about that, you all. Now, the last package I wanted to hear about was the thicken and, oh, excuse me, the thrive and thicken therapy. Now, who is that for?
So that's for those women who are going through menopause
Okay.
or suffering some hormonal imbalances. So we bring them in, we do some treatments on them, and we try to, because they're going through what's called telogen effluvium.
Mhm.
So that's overall hair thinning. So it's not just in one area, it's generalized all over the head.
Okay.
So we first, again, we do those consultations, we do the hair assessment, and we see what's going on. Is that hair breaking off? Are the follicles um, clogged up with sebum? You know, we figure out what's going on. So we personalize that treatment specifically for those individuals going through any menopause, PCOS, anything like that. We ensure that we can help them get their hair back thicker and better.
Okay. Okay. Now, I know one thing that I read in your bio and on your website is that
Mhm.
Japanese scalp treatment. And I'm like, woo, I feel like that would feel so good on my scalp. For those baldies like me, is that who that's for? Just, I mean, I'm sure it's for anybody, but I'm sure it would be a great experience for a woman who is just bald, who just can just go and get pampered, get her scalp pampered. So can you talk to
Yeah,
us about that Japanese, what is it?
head spa.
Head
It's a
spa.
Japanese head spa.
Okay.
So that is geared towards relaxation. You're gonna come in, you're gonna get a deep massage to your scalp. I'm gonna use some things on your scalp, such as, I forgot what they're called, but they are like jade, they're like jade instruments,
Is it
right?
for
Made out of,
circulation?
yep, made of jade. And
Okay.
you use those on the scalp, and that's going to stimulate, you know, the blood flow in your scalp. It's going to give you relax. It feels so good. It's
Mhm.
going to give you relaxation. We're going to use some oils to do those deep massages, manipulate the scalp. and it's just generally used for relaxation.
Okay.
And yes, it's for the baldies.
Oh,
And it's for people who have hair. Massage therapy is a great tool for anyone who needs to take some self-care for themselves.
okay. Okay. Yeah. So that is something I'm like, ooh, I feel like that will feel amazing. Just amazing
It
on my scalp.
yes, yes, definitely. I have a great mentor, and she's taught me so much about massage therapy and, kind of releasing some things and getting people relaxed. Because that's basically what it is a relaxation device for you to use to take that space for yourself, clear your mind. When you come in, I have like the cold eye patches that you would put on to
Yes.
reduce the swelling or reduce, the bags under your eyes. So you're getting like a nice spa treatment.
Okay.
And it's just from just your neck up. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Just for your neck up. And a lot of people need it.
Yes. So do you ever service like groups or usually it's just one-on-one?
It's just one-on-one.
Okay.
I have one bed, and like I said, I wanted to create a personalized experience for those individuals coming to see me. And hopefully in the future, I can train some other individuals and we can get more beds, we can get a bigger space,
Mhm.
and we can move like that.
Okay. Okay. Well, you know what? Goals. So it's going to happen when it's supposed to happen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I know you do the custom made wigs, and we've talked about that. Do you sell any pre-made wigs? And when I say pre-made, I'm not meaning that you're ordering it from somewhere. It's something you've made yourself, but it's pre-made,
Mhm.
not necessarily custom made for a particular person.
Yeah, definitely. I love to make wigs. So I make wigs. I put them on the website after they're created. I have them in the location. So I do sell pre-made wigs. And I make them all different sizes. So we have small, we have medium, we have large. So I don't leave anyone out because that's the issue when we're dealing with wigs is we might buy a wig from somewhere and it does not fit at all. It's either
Mhm.
too big or too small. So that's why I like to make the custom wigs, because when you're wearing a wig, it could be ill-fitting. You could look crazy sometime, right? And
Mhm.
I don't want that to be the case with anyone wearing any of my units. And I also order some units and I customize them to what, the size or what my vision is for that unit.
Okay.
I create all types of units, short, long, pixie. So I just make them and I put them up in hopes that someone sees the website or hears about me and, wants to purchase one of those.
Okay, so when you are doing the custom made wigs from scratch, how
Mhm.
on average, how long does that usually take? So let's just say I come, I do a consultation, I tell you what I'm looking for.
Mhm.
How long would it take you to make a wig on average?
So if I'm making it from scratch, right, that would take generally between, I would say 3 to 5 weeks.
Okay.
And that's because I'm putting each individual hair onto that closure.
Mhm.
Or if we're making a full lace wig, that takes time. So it's a lot of hours that go into it. And if it's not something that I'm ventilating myself, if I have to buy a closure, that
Mhm.
wig could be made in 2 days. It could, and that just depends on the customization. If there's color involved, if there's a intense cut that they're looking for. So
Mhm.
it just depends on what option they're looking for.
Okay, so in the meantime, so if I come to you, I don't have a wig, this is my, first time, or I
Mhm.
don't have experience, but I have to wait, let's just say the 5 to 6 weeks. What do
Mhm.
you typically tell people to do in between that time? Because, I know they're looking for a solution today. So
Yes.
what do you normally advise?
So I advise them to look around. If you see a unit that you like, let's see if it fits, right?
Mhm.
And if it does fit, I will allow them to I would call it hold the unit until their unit is completed.
Okay, like borrow. Do they
Like
have to
borrow.
deposit
Yeah.
or pay something to hold it?
Yeah. So I just would ask for a 50% deposit on the unit that they're getting created, and then they can take this one home with them if they like it, right?
Okay.
I don't want anyone to leave feeling like, oh, I gotta wait 2 months to get a wig. How I'm gonna go to work on Monday.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because
I
that's the
don't ever,
concern.
yes, I don't ever want anyone to leave my space and not have what they're looking for. And sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's a curse.
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
But I just feel like I just want to help people. That is just in my nature. I was a caseworker, so I've, been in the community, and I know what the community, is lacking, as far as resources is concerned, especially with the economy that we're in. No one, can really afford too much.
Right.
And then, you have to decide, am I going to put this on my credit card, or am I going to try to pay for this out of pocket? It's hard out here. Streets
Yes.
is hard. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
I just want to ensure that everybody's taken care of. And I say it's a curse because people be like, girl, you shouldn't be doing that. And you trying to run a business. Look, God's going to bless me regardless,
Exactly.
So whatever they are looking for, I'm willing to provide.
Okay. Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier a little bit about insurance and how you got your cranial prosthesis certification so that you could work with insurance. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? I've covered it on the podcast before, but there may be something a little bit different about, what you're doing as far as making sure wigs are covered. So
Yeah.
if you can think about it, how often are you approved versus denied? Like, is there a percentage of approvals? Do you get denied a lot? Like, how does that work?
Well, to avoid all of the denials, you have to first ensure that that person is covered for a medical wig or cranial prosthesis. And then you can determine what their deductibles are. So they generally start between 30% up to 80%. And maybe some individuals have that insurance that covers up to 100%. But then it comes into the price. How much is the insurance company willing to pay for, a medical wig? I had a woman come and her insurance paid up to $1,500 lifetime. As you know, medical wigs are expensive.
Yes. And one
So
unit is a 1,500 or more. It could be.
yeah. So, when I told her that, they would cover a $1,500 for one unit for a lifetime, she was accepting of that. But then she, called me the next day. She like, girl, that's the only wig I'm going to receive.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, but me being me, I ensured she had 2 wigs.
Okay.
Because I can understand things happen, and if this is for the lifetime of what you're going through as far as your cancer treatment, we don't know if the hair will come back. Some individuals are different. A lot of those people, their hair comes back after their treatments. But I wanted her to feel secure in her decision that this was the right place to come to. Insurance companies, they can be very difficult to work with. I enlisted a medical billing company now to help with, that process, because it is hard for someone to just jump into filling out claims. There may be something they're looking for that you're like, what is it that I'm missing? They're not going to tell you what you're missing. They're going to put it in terms that you don't understand. So it could be difficult. So with insurance, I make sure that they're covered, what they're covered for, what the lifetime benefit is. We got some women who can get a wig every year or every 6 months. So it just depends on those insurance companies and what they're willing to allot for the medical wig.
And I know also that the codes, so the medical codes that are being used to identify people who have certain types of alopecia, that's important. So for example, there was not a code at all for scarring alopecia. Any form of scarring alopecia, whether it's CCCA, FFA, like whatever form of scarring alopecia, there was not a medical code for it. So us as patients were not getting, I guess, the research. When you think about the research and the funding for different things and insurance covering different medical conditions, we're not showing up for scarring alopecia because there was never a medical code until now. There's now one out there, that has been passed. So now that doctors or dermatologists can code people with scarring alopecia as having that, so that then you can say, okay, we see you have this type of alopecia. All right, we can offer you this coverage for a medical wig or cranial prosthesis. So that is a big, important thing out there. So I'm so happy that that has happened. Now, my follow-up question about the wigs, we kind of talked about how long it takes. And, that like that one client you had only had one wig for a lifetime that will be covered. How long typically do wigs last when they're custom made, these good quality cranial prosthesis and medical wigs? How long do they typically last if somebody's wearing them, like maybe on a daily basis?
So if they're wearing them on a daily basis, it just depends on how they're wearing them, right? And I don't mean how they're wearing them. I mean, like what they're doing. Are they sleeping with them? Are they overly, excessively combing them? A wig for my wigs last 3 to 5 years. I got wigs I can pull out of a bag and wash, condition, refresh, and it's back to like it was brand new, right?
Yeah.
So it just depends on how you're maintaining that unit, and the source of the hair, right? So a lot of our hair comes from India, and a lot of the hair that is sold comes from India, but we have to understand that if it's sold to a different manufacturer, they're putting it through a process. They may put some silicones on there to make it bone straight. Like they're putting chemicals on that hair. And over time, that hair is going to start shedding. That hair is going to start bunching up, especially in the back, and you're going to have the big knot in the back. And that's a big pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
So I like to go to the source, and that is raw Indian hair.
Okay.
And for me, it's the best hair. It matches African American women's texture more than the virgin hairs. But there's a lot of options out there. Wigs and weaves have become a trend, and you have to ensure that you're getting the right hair that's going to last you for at least 3 to 5 years, if not longer than that, because you're putting an investment into that. So you want to make sure that you're protecting that investment, and, you can wear that as long as you need. And I repair wigs as well.
Okay.
So if anyone, has a little bald spot on the top of their lace, I can put that hair back on. If that track starts slipping, I can, fix that. If you just need me to refresh it for you, put a different color or a different cut, I can do that.
Oh, so another thing, this is follow-up because I'm thinking about my own experience when I was wearing my wigs. Now, I never bought a custom wig, but I did buy wigs that were, a couple hundreds of dollars, good quality wig. And when you just mentioned taking care of your wig, I took care, or I'm gonna say took because I haven't touched those wigs in a while. They're actually sitting in a tote, but I took care of those wigs as if they were my real hair. Like you just talked about, washing them, conditioning them, making sure, that you do all of the things so that your wig lasts longer. You have to make sure you do that. You can't just buy a wig, think you can put it on and straighten it and do all these things to it and not take care of it, because it will not last long.
Yeah, because you need those, and you need products, right?
Yeah.
So for styling, you got to make sure you're getting the right products. You don't want products with alcohol in it. That's going to dry that hair out. You don't want to use too many gels and stuff like that, because that's going to dry it out and that's going to, damage that unit. And you want to keep it for a long time. So
Yes.
you just got to make sure you're using the right products. You want to make sure that you're, like you said, acting as if it's your own.
Right.
No
right.
silicones and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Just making sure that you're doing the proper things to have longevity with it.
So my next question is virtual services. I know that you have a brick and mortar, but do you offer virtual services to people who may not be in your area?
Yes, definitely. That's so I offer Zoom consultations.
Okay.
And during that consultation, you're going to show me, what your problem areas are. And then I can, kind of ask those follow-up questions as to, are you feeling any itching? Does it burn? Things like that, and then we can go into what, have you seen a dermatologist? Are you taking any medications? And then I can go into, I prefer individuals who are suffering from like permanent hair loss, scarring, alopecia, to do those virtual consultations, because those other people who are suffering from, different symptoms or concerns, I can't look at it.
Right.
I like to use my triscope and magnify that 200 times to look at the scalp, look down into that follicle to ensure that, what's going on, I can address. I can't address everything online, but I am working on that. I'm working with the company to try to get those scalp analysis done online. Yes. So, technology has grown in the last couple of years.
Yes.
AI is doing a big thing for a
Yes.
lot of people. And I want to be in that realm where, Power Beauty Unlimited is technically advanced, as far as doing scalp analysis and head measurement online. So that's a big thing for me and something I've been working on for a little while. And hopefully, I can get that up and running. So anybody around the country, around the world can look me up, get their scalp analysis or those custom wig measurements, and we can move forward from there.
So then you can get what you need and you can make the wig and just ship it to them.
Just ship it off.
Got it. Got it. Oh, that would be amazing. I can't wait till you get there. All right. Now we've been talking all about your business. Tell everybody where they can find you. Where's your business located? How can they contact you to get a consultation? Give them that information.
Okay. So we are located in Albany, New York, which is the capital region of New York State. My website is powerbeautyunlimited.com. I'm open to phone calls anytime. That phone number is 518-290-7557. Even if you have a generalized question. Social media, Instagram is Power Beauty Unlimited. Facebook, Power Beauty Unlimited Hair and Wigs. LinkedIn, I'm Valerie Alexander. My email, support@powerbeautyunlimited.com.
Okay. And I do have those links and I will put them in the description or the show notes. So if you did not catch it, you can go to the description and just copy and paste it or click on it and get directly to Valerie. All right.
Correct.
Now, what is next for you? You have told us some things that, you're working on, some things you want to do, but let's just say in the next year, what is next for you and your business?
So what's next for me is establishing my own structure for Power Beauty Unlimited. Right now, I'm leasing out a space. My intention, I have a piece of property that I wanted to develop for Power Beauty Unlimited. It's owned by Power Beauty Unlimited. So that's what I'm working on. I'm trying to create another location for Power Beauty Unlimited within the community that's accessible to anyone that's in the community. Big on community. Like I said, we lack a lot of resources, and just becoming a leader in the medical hair loss field. That is my intention over this next year, is to ensure that I get all the education, I get all the resources for those individuals that, I am assisting.
Okay, all right. Well, that is all we have. I don't have any additional questions for you, but I do want you to leave the audience with one final thought. So if you could speak to any woman or any person out there who's experiencing hair loss, what inspiration would you want to leave them with?
My tagline, power and beauty start within. If we're not taking care of ourselves inside, then it's not going to reflect on the outside. And I want everyone to understand that we are powerful, we are beautiful, and we only radiate that from the inside, and then it reflects on the outside.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Valerie, for everything that you are doing for the community, everything you're doing for people with hair loss. You are a great benefit.
Thank you.
All right, you guys. Well, that is the end of this episode of the Bougie Baldie podcast. Now, if you guys need any emotional support regarding your hair loss, you are suffering identity crises, you're having depression, sadness, anxiety, any of those things that are causing you emotional challenges due to your hair loss, make sure you go ahead and book a call with me. My information will also be in the description of this episode. Simply put in your information, we can hop on a call and allow me to assist you so that we can get you to a better place. So again, I want to make sure you are living a full life of happiness, and we cannot let hair loss hold us back because we have things to do on this earth. Okay. All right. So that is all we have for this week, and I'll see you guys next week. All right. From my heart to yours. Bye. Are you a woman struggling with hair loss, feeling unattractive and insecure? At Limitless Mindset Coaching, we understand the emotional toll that hair loss can take. In just 90 days, we help you transform from feeling lost and embarrassed to radiating with confidence and joy. Imagine building your self-esteem, discovering the perfect camouflage technique to cover up your hair loss, and receiving tips and tricks that can help you with your hair loss and embrace the new you while connecting with a supportive community of women just like you. Say goodbye to those negative emotions and hello to a positive mindset. Picture vibrant new relationships, walking through the room with your head held high, participating in social events and activities again, and living a life filled with happiness. Are you ready to take that first step? Well, visit www.limitlessmindsetcoach.com or click the link in the description today, and let's embark on this empowering journey together.
Thank you for watching the Bougie Baldie podcast. Don't forget to subscribe